passing out on the couch. So tell me, where does this end? You can look in my eyes to see what state I'm in. Tell me, where do we start and tell me, where do we end? Tell me, where do we go and where do we begin? Want you to look in my eyes, want you to lie to my face. I'm going to pick fire over grace. Just wanna kiss the bottle all night. I don't care if I lose it all. Just wanna forget about this tomorrow morning. So let's get it over with.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
1420 Sports Bar Podcast, Yankees Week in Review. Listen in throughout the baseball season as we will go over the week that was for the New York Yankees. We'll talk about what went right, what went wrong this week, this day in Yankees history, Yankees birthdays, and predictions of what the Bronx Bombers record will be at the end of the upcoming week. It's 1420 Yankees Week in Review, the Yankee Tavern North, brought to you by SeatGeek. So put on your pinstripes, grab a beer, and let's get in. All right, the Yankee Week in Review for this, April the 26th, 2023. Today's Yankee Week in Review, as always, brought to you by SeatGeek.com. The SeatGeek app, use promo code 1420pod at SeatGeek.com and save yourself $20 on your first purchase of a baseball ticket, a hockey ticket, a concert ticket, or a show ticket, or whatever you want to go to, whatever floats your boat. I wouldn't buy many Yankee tickets right now the way that team is playing, but we'll get into that in half a second. Thank you very much for SeatGeek for sponsoring us for over a year now. We appreciate all the support that you've given us. Anyways, the Yankees right now sit at 13-11. They are winning right now against the Minnesota Twins as we're recording this on Wednesday at 12:32 in the afternoon. They're up 11-3. Their bats have somehow come alive. And as I was doing my show notes today, it was all about bashing the Yankee bats. So maybe they heard what I was having to say about them from all the way up here, the Yankee Tavern North in Lethbridge, Alberta, cursing them under my breath, sometimes out of my breath, out loud to the masses and the voices in my head, talking about how bad the Yankees have been as of late. Their bats have went silent. They had a 5-5 homestand where they lost their first series of the season to the Toronto Blue Jays, losing 2 out of 3. They went 2-2 with the Minnesota Twins, who they usually handle quite handily over the years. Since 2001, they haven't lost a season series to the Minnesota Twins, but the 2 losses this week that they've had already to the Twins have resulted in the first series loss since, like I said, 2001, which is unprecedented considering how much you think the Yankees over the years, not only in the regular season, but also in the playoffs over the years, how the Yankees have owned the Twins. It hasn't been close over the years, and so it's kind of been one of those things you just always thought that the Yankees were going to handle the Twins. They're handling them today. We'll see how this turns out. Hand it over the bullpen. You know what might happen with the New York Yankees the way they're going right now. The 13 wins that they have so far this season are quite surprising, to be honest with you. The way the bats have been silenced, they don't hit very well at all. They have only 2 to 3 guys that might give opposing pitching staffs and opposing pitching coaches nightmares at night. You look at Aaron Judge, who's struggling anyways, but he's not struggling, but he's not doing, he's striking out a lot. You got Rizzo, who's been consistent, and Gleyber Torres, who's been fantastic. I think, yeah, he's in a bit of a slump with the rest of the team right now, but you have those 2 to 3 guys that are something to behold at the top of the lineup. But then you got 6 guys that are on the roster right now that are flirting with the Mendoza line, which is under 200, and you wonder how long that's going to last. And you got another 3 guys that are an 0 day away of being up along with that Mendoza line as well. So you just wonder where that's going to end up and how that's going to keep going with the New York Yankees. I don't think this is a thing that every point right now, like you're at a point right now where the team has to be pitching 100% perfect, like Garrett Cole did a couple weeks ago, where he went 9, striking out I think 12, and he had to have a perfect day pretty much for the New York Yankees to get a win. It's very tough right now when you have a team that an error by Peraza, an error by Hicks not getting the ball. We'll get into Hicks in a little bit later. Or you got Anthony Volpe making another error last night with 3 in the last 3 games, I believe it is. You have an error by him, and your game is pretty much shot. And that's a tough spot to be in if you're a New York Yankee or a baseball fan in general, where your pitching staff has to be 100% perfect throughout the season to get wins. It's almost impossible for a team to have that, and I don't understand that how this Yankee team, who spends a lot of money year in year out, gets into that situation situation. And you look at a team, and we beat this to death on not only our podcast, but on a lot of podcasts that are throughout the world that I listen to, and how the Tampa Bay Rays, who finally lost a game at home last night, they're 13 and 14 and 1 at home or whatever it is, how a team like that can just play not flawless baseball, but they can go out night in, night out and have a pitching staff that gets it done. The Yankees don't have that at all right now, and any pitching decision that Boone and company makes might result in a loss with the way this team is playing and the way this team isn't hitting the baseball. It's a situation that is it just everyone's cold at the same time? I doubt it. I don't think that's a thing in baseball. I don't see how an entire team can go cold for a long stretch of time like this Yankee team is. Like I said, going 5-5 on a homestand and then losing the first 2 in Minnesota. That's 12 games where everybody's cold. When you're only averaging 2 runs per game, your pitching staff has to be flawless, like I said. And the only guy that's been flawless so far has been G. Cole. I just called him G. Cole. I don't know why I came up with that, but it has been Cole. Cortez had a bit of a rough start last night. He wasn't as good as he usually is. He's been great so far this season, but the rest of the pitching staff hasn't been good. When you have a franchise, and when you have a team, when you have a fan base that is kind of, I don't want to say clamoring, but hoping for a guy like the president of the Josh Donaldson fan club to return to the lineup because he's out with injury, and you want Donaldson back in your lineup, who last year only had 14 home runs, but you have 14 home runs that you can't see a lot of the guys on this lineup getting to this season. You can't, like 14 home runs doesn't sound like a lot, but is IKF, Hicks, Franchi Cordero, Higashioka, Willie Calhoun, Oswaldo Peraza, Volpe, are they going to get 14 home runs? Probably not. And I'm not a big boomer bust kind of a baseball fan, and I've never been the guy that a home run or bust get you championships, because I think you got to base hit your way to championships like back in the old days. But now that you can't piece 3 hits together, and you need the home run on a nightly basis, you have that I just named that many guys who aren't going to get home runs, and it's a tough situation that the Yankees are in, that they probably aren't going to get those hits, and they're going to struggle, and they're going to have a problem because this lineup is very weak. And then you have them talking today, I think it was that Harrison Bader might return next week or the week after next, on the 5th or the 6th of May, and all of a sudden you're into May. It's a whole month of the season gone, and Bader's coming out. You don't know what you're going to get from him. He came over from the Cardinals hurt. He played in the playoffs. He was very good in the playoffs, but now he's hurt again. He has a history of being hurt and hasn't been able to contribute on a nightly basis, so you don't know what you're going to get out of Harrison Bader. He seems like a great defensive player. He did hit very well in the playoffs last season, but I don't know what you're going to get out of him. And to have a guy coming, he's going to be hitting in AAA. I think today, once you start hitting big league pitching, you don't know what you're going to get from this guy, and it's going to be very tough for a Harrison Bader to have an effect on this lineup and everything else. The one thing I don't understand is how you have a guy that's still in the lineup every once in a while with Hicks. I know that you have to showcase a guy to try to get rid of him, but I can't see anybody wanting to pick a guy up like Hicks, because he's just been that bad. He's hitting $120. That's well below the old Mendoza line of 200, and he just seems disinterested. There was a fly ball last night that he just didn't look. It was going to be a tough play, but it didn't look like he was going to be interested to make that catch. If he was getting more playing time, and had a hope in hell of making the everyday roster, the everyday lineup, he might have been running for that ball a little bit harder, but that ended up being a big turning point in the game. And like I said, if you can't score runs, scoring 2 runs a game. Yes, they have 11 today, of course. They must have got the 14-20 seal or kick in the ass earlier on today. But it's one of those things where the New York Yankees just aren't getting the hits they got. And speaking of Hicks and speaking of IKF, I don't understand why they have them in a lineup. If the Arizona Diamondbacks, with their payroll, what it's at, if they can find $34 million to pay off a Madison Bumgarner to go away, why can't the Yankees eat some salary and say, you know what, this just isn't working out. We got to get rid of you guys. We need to win baseball games, because right now it's getting late early, as Yogi Berra used to say, because all of a sudden you have a team in the Tampa Bay Rays that are 7 games ahead of you, and you're struggling to do anything, and you have 2 guys in the lineup who aren't going to get hits, probably aren't going to get hits. IKF has been a disaster since he came over, and I don't think that Cashman and Boone want to admit how bad it's been. And it's one of those pride things that you just don't want to do, like Bettman has with the Arizona Coyotes. I guess it's one of those things where they just don't want to admit their faults and say, hey, it's time to go. Why they can't buy out Hicks and just say goodbye to him, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow for Yankee fans, see why these guys are in lineups. And when you're only averaging 2 runs a game, like I said, it's over the last couple of weeks, it's hard to imagine how this team is going to get out of this slump as a cohesive unit, and how they're going to get through it. You have another guy that's been a disappointment, in my opinion. Yes, yes, he's had a couple of pretty good playoff appearances with Giancarlo Stanton, but once again, he's hurt, pulled up lame, hamstrings done. He's out for who knows how long. They say 6 weeks, but 6 weeks always ends up being 8 to 10 weeks by the time the rehab assignments come around. And Giancarlo Stanton, I think, has only played in about 60% of the home games or the regular season games since being acquired in 2018 in the offseason when Jeter ran the. It only takes a matter of time before Jeter comes into play here. But since he was acquired from the Miami Marlins, Giancarlo Stanton hasn't been available in year in, year out. If you're not available, your best ability is availability, and he's been hurting the Yankees in the regular season for a long time. The contract's manageable. I get it. The money's there and everything else, but you have that guy not playing, that hurts. And you're depending on these guys who are hurt year in, year out. And that's a major problem that the Yankees have had for quite some time. I don't know what they're going to do with Stanton. I don't know what the plan is there because that pitching staff is hurting. Rodon is probably out for another month and a half from what I've read. You might get Severino back next week, but you have a guy that you're still toting out there with the Clark Schmidt, who's proven time in, time out that he cannot pitch in the bright lights of New York City. He's not a big league pitcher. I don't think he could pitch anywhere. I don't think he could pitch in Detroit, Tampa, Houston, Texas, wherever it may be. I don't think Clark Schmidt is a major league pitcher, so it's really going to be tough to see what they do with him in the very near future if they're going to maybe go to an opener role and the like. Because I don't see Schmidt. That's got to be getting a little bit old with the. With the Yankee staff and with Boone and with everybody else saying we got to tote this guy out here. This roster, like I hate to Boone can only do what he can do. This is the guys that were given to him by Cashman and by his talking heads and by the nerds and by the front office and whoever puts these rosters together. I don't know what or if any knowledge or input that Boone has with this franchise and how they piece it together. But you got to think that this roster and the minor league system and everything else, it's been put together by Cashman. And this whole thing, I don't want to say it's disaster because they're 25 games in. There's lots of baseball left this season, but they're sitting at 13 and 12, and it's going to be tough in that division. Baltimore's a lot better. The Boston Red Sox are better than people thought they were going to be, and the Jays are winning again today. So that American League East is a very good division. You look at Tampa Bay; they just got to go 500 for the rest of the season during the playoffs already, right? Whereas if the Yankees go 500, they're probably going to miss the playoffs. So the Yankees got a lot of winning to do in the very near future, and you want to collect wins in April and May, so you don't have to collect wins at crunch time in September when you should be rolling up your bullpen a little bit and letting your starters sit a little bit, and you can work things out. The Yankees are in a situation where they just don't have it, and you got to think that this roster that Cashman put together, the bench players he's got on this team and the like, it's not good enough. They didn't have a clear-cut left fielder going into the opening of the season. They didn't really have a shortstop going into the season. It was Volpe's job to lose. He hasn't been good. He's gotten some stolen bases. Yes, I think he's 8 for 8 in stolen bases, but he's not hitting the ball as well. He's hitting a little bit better today, of course, but as I write this down, and I don't see him getting any better throughout the season. He'll get he'll improve, but over the season it gets a little bit tougher. Pitching does get tougher as the season goes on. I just don't see it going on. Then you have an IKF situation where they just won't give up on that guy, and it's a lineup that doesn't impress me at all. I shouldn't know who a guy like Franchi Cordero is. I shouldn't know who a guy like Willie Calhoun is. They just aren't big league bats. They aren't at all, and it's hard to imagine what's going to happen. The Yankees have become prospect huggers. You look what happened with the Yankees. Clint Frazier was just released from his second minor league team. He's out of the big leagues now, and they could have got a lot of good players for Frazier when they got him for Gleyber Torres in the Gleyber Torres for the Aroldis Chapman deal back in 2016. I think it was with the Chicago Cubs to send him over, and they were prospect hugging back then, and they were saying, you know what, we're going to hold on to these prospects and hope that they become something. And most time prospects don't. Prospects are just players, and that's all they end up being most of the time. You look at in Double A right now, Jason Dominguez. He's the Martian, they call him in the Yankee organization. He's not having a very good run of it in the minor leagues right now, and they probably could get a pretty penny for him. They could go out and get some players for him. I know you can't have all stars and you can't have superstars at every position that Yankee fans want, and I know, and I'm the biggest. I'm not a George Steinbrenner apologist by any means, and a lot of people just go do what George did, do what George did. Well, that's just not possible anymore. The way the finance of baseball work and the money's a lot different now. It's not go out and spend and make it work. You look at how Tampa Bay can find a way to do it, and then they don't spend. And the Yankees, they're in trouble right now, and I just don't see them getting out of it. Am I panicking a little bit? Yeah. Is it early to panic? It's never too early to panic, but I'm being pessimistic Yankee guy right now. I don't see much hope for this team moving forward, just with that lineup and the way they're hitting. DJ LeMahieu has been solid, and without him, you wonder where this team would be. Judge, he's got to quit striking out. Pinstripes are heavy, and then that wall that is a lot heavier all of a sudden. Is he squeezing a little bit? Yeah, he's been effective here and there, but 32 strikeouts. I think it's fifth in the big leagues right now. 4 strikeouts. You got to get on base. I don't care what the analytics say. You got to get on base no matter what. It doesn't matter how many home runs you hit. If they're all solo shots, you could lose 5-1, hit 162 home runs throughout the season. You need guys on base, and when you're striking out as often and as Judge does, that's a bad thing for baseball, and I don't think it's good for him. Yeah, DJ LeMahieu, I don't know. To me, he's been the most consistent guy. He looks healthy. He had the health scare with his foot late last season into the playoffs. I've always liked LeMahieu since he came over, but how long is that going to last? Because he's getting up there in age. He's not a young DJ anymore, and so you got to wonder how long that'll last. You got to wonder what the plans for him, because eventually they got to sit these guys out and give them some rest days. The way it all works out, not many guys play Cal Ripken-esque kind of careers anymore, or even seasons. Like everybody gets an off day here and there. So if all of a sudden you got to sit Judge and LeMahieu for a day, then what? Then who's in? Franchi Cordero again? It just doesn't make sense in this lineup. And this is on Cashman. It's been on him for a long time. You don't want to be that Yankee guy. Won world championship in 14 years. Yeah, they had that success back in the 2000 early or late 90s, early 2000s, and the like, with all those world championships and playoff appearances, and they make the playoffs year in, year out. But making the playoffs is just making the playoffs. And right now, I don't see this being a playoff team. Things could change by this time next week. Things could change by this time next month. But you just, I don't see any improvement going with this lineup. It's a weak lineup, 4 through 9 right now, and their bench guys aren't very good. Their pitching staff's not very good. They have an unproven bullpen, and they don't have a closer. And without a closer, you aren't doing nothing. Without a closer in any sport, with any team, is almost the most important position. You need a guy you can depend on night in, night out, because you start putting balls in people's hands you don't trust, then bad things are going to happen. Human beings find a way to screw things up, and the more times you put a baseball in a different human being's hands, the more chance you have of that person screwing things up. But anyways, I hope the Yankees, I hope I'm completely wrong. I hope I'm just overreacting a little bit on this Wednesday afternoon on the Yankee look back of the week, but I don't have much hope for this team right now. They're not a championship caliber team by any means right now. 13-12, they'll be 13 or they're 13-11 right now. They'll be 14-11 when the day's over. But I don't see things going very well for the Yankees in the very near future. Anyways, after they're done here, the Yankees. There's my rant for the day. It's one of those things that I bitch about the Yankees to whoever's out there listening, and whoever is listening and watching on YouTube Live and Facebook Live and everywhere else. Thank you very much for tuning in during your lunch hour, or just maybe you're at work and playing hooky from work a little bit, listening to my me whine about the Yankees a little bit. But right now, there'll be a 13-11 or 14-11 when this game is over. I suspect they're going to go 1-3 in Texas. That Texas team is really good. They can pitch. DeGrom had a good outing yesterday. They can pitch, and they have a very good team. They're in Texas. They're in first place in the American League West right now, because Houston's battling a little bit right now, which is kind of surprising. But I see the Yankees going 1-3, so they'll be 14-15 when they get out of Texas. And then they got a very good Cleveland team going into the Bronx next week. And I think these hitting struggles are going to continue with the New York Yankees throughout the next couple of weeks. I don't think this just goes away by any means, and they're not healthy. They're not good enough. And like I said, when you're clamoring for the president of the Josh Donaldson fan club to get back in the lineup, Josh Donaldson ain't gonna solve your problems by any means at 38 years of age and 14 home runs he hit last year. But that's 14 more than most of the players that are playing on that franchise or on that roster are going to get right now. It's going to be tough to see. So by next Wednesday, I think the Yankees will be about a 15-17 team, a 16-16 team. It's tough to see, because the more wins that they don't get now, the further ahead the Tampa Bay Rays are going to get, because they're just stockpiling wins, and when you're chasing early in the season, you usually end up chasing all season long, because it's a real tough tough road to hoe to end up going somewhere and get this done. But anyways, I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Yankees can pull off a big weekend win in Texas, and I hope they have a better run of things in the Bronx than they did last week when they went 5-5 in that big home stretch, but or home swing. But I just don't see it right now. The team's struggling, and this on Cashman and his lineup construction, which has been poor for quite some time. But we'll see how this all turns out. Anyways, there's my rant for the day once again. Anyways, on this day in 1961, Roger Maris of the New York Yankees hit his first home run of the season off of Paul Fedek of the Detroit Tigers in the 5th inning of a 13-11 Yankee victory over the Detroit Tigers in front of a paltry 4,676 fans at Tiger Stadium. Luis Arroyo picked up the win for the Yankees. Mickey Mantle hit 2 home runs, and the Yanks improved their record to 6-4 on the young season. So this is when the 61-61 started back in 1961. Obviously, for Roger Maris, everybody knows the Babe Ruth story and the Roger Maris, the home run and the race with Mickey Mantle, who got sick at the end, or not sick, but he injured with some skin infection at the end of the 61 season. But on this day in 1961, Roger Maris hit his first home run of the 1961 season en route to that record-breaking season that was just broke by the birthday boy today, Aaron Judge. Happy 31st birthday to Aaron Judge. Born on this day in 1992 in Linden, California. Judge was actually drafted to the major leagues twice, once by the Oakland A's out of high school, the 31st round, and then the first round of the 2013 draft to the Yankees. Judge set the single season record and American League home run record of 62 home runs last season. Well documented. Got the great big contract when it was all said and done to the Yankees. Pinstripes are heavy. He's striking out a lot, which I hope he's going to get that cured. But Judge will he'll be okay. I'm assuming that contract might come back to haunt guys a little later on throughout the major league season. You never know how that might end up, but it's been a tough go so far for the Yankees. I hope they get better. I hope I'm just being the pessimistic Yankee apologist, whiner, or whatever you want to call it, but I find myself being a realistic Yankee fan, not a whiny Yankee fan, and I just hope that maybe once I'm wrong. I'm wrong more than once a week here at 14:20 in the morning and 14:20 at night. Anyways, heading down to got lots going on here at World Headquarters, so we don't know when shows are going to be up and out. Dave's unavailable some nights, so we're going to try to work at our schedule. Jasper's got baseball, and I got baseball at night too, so we got to work out some schedules, how we're going to get these shows out to you guys. Thank you very much to whoever's listening to our podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you listen to other shows as well. Don't just listen to the most recent ones, listen to some old ones, and catch up on some laughs that me and Dave have on a nightly basis when we do the show together. Make sure you download and subscribe to our podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's going out really well. We're picking up new followers every day, so that's an encouraging thing. And be sure to use SeatGeek.com, the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420POD at SeatGeek.com today. And also Belly Up Sports. They got a lot of stuff going on there. Make sure to use Caldera Lab for your men's skincare products as well. Good sponsors that we got from our friends at Belly Up and Belly Up Media, who we're proud of members of. We were number 3 on their list of podcasts as the day started here. So we're climbing the ranks there. Lots to go. But if you get a chance to listen to our podcast, make sure you listen to a bunch of the other podcasts on the Belly Up Media and the Belly Up Network of shows. Anyways, thank you very much for listening to the show today. We'll get another one out later on, probably tomorrow morning, 14:20 in the morning, but it's going out really well here. So make sure you guys listen, talk to people about the show, because that's how it gets the word out there even more. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, and remember, it doesn't matter where you are, it's who you're with. Have a good day, folks, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I never get back. Oh, it's root for the home team. They don't win, it's a shame. Now it's 1, 2, 3 strikes. You're out at the old ball game.
Just listen to the 1420 Sports Bar Podcast. For Beer with the Sports Talk and a whole lot more. We are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Let's get into it.